Hello, everybody. Episode 2. Welcome back to those that know us and to anybody listening for the first time. Welcome.
Yeah, we're the Canadian Real Estate Homefront Podcast, and we just try to give you guys educational news that you can use for your real estate purchases or just stay up to date on the market. And my name is Cortez Ranieri. I'm a realtor in the Oakville, Burlington, Hamilton area.
And I am Brooke Hicks. I'm a realtor as well in the Oakville, Burlington, and Hamilton area.
Amazing. I know we compete against each other. But here
we have a little bit of competition. But anyways, last week we spoke a little bit about what's happening in the economy overall. A lot to do with unemployment, some statistics with where those numbers came in at, where the interest rates are. So if you haven't already listened to that, feel free to check it out. But today we have a couple things that we wanted to go over.
Yeah, lots to talk about, as usual.
We'll try to fit it all in.
I always just keep firing articles at you. And you're like, oh my God, how are we going to fit this all in?
Every day there's 10 articles coming at me. So we try to kind of go through it and amalgamate it to
pick the best stuff.
Pick the best stuff and, go through the competing articles when people's opinions are on either side. So
all right.
Why don't we get into it?
All right, our topic number 1, which I think everyone who's not in real estate is surprised by. Toronto prices climb again in March. So TREB released their data.
I like that you say everybody that's not in real estate.
Well, I feel like because interest rates are so high and there's so much economic uncertainty, when people hear that the real estate market's good, they're kind of like, how? How is that possible? So I think the data will kind of help us here. So TREB released their data and the average price was, it was just under 1.1 million and it went up about 20 to 30K was kind of the average. So they have like the benchmark price and the average price. So the benchmark price is the home with the most popular set of features, and then you have your average price. So prices did go up again month over month, and it's
small compared to, we're still very down from last year.
Yeah, we're still about 15% down.
And we're crawling our way back up.
Yeah.
So these increases, let's get it. It's not to scare people it's tiny little increases, but we are treading in that direction.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you look at the graph, it's kind of like, it's almost like bottoming out in a sense. Like, you have a little bit of upside, but we're still about 15% down from the peak in the Toronto area, according to TREB. So, I mean, that's something to note as well. Like, we are seeing bidding wars, but not the frenzy that we saw. So, I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt as well. But I think that something that's really important to note, and I kind of think why, is because volumes are down 44% year over year, which is huge. So the amount of homes selling is down 44%. So you're going to have realtors and mortgage agents going
leaving the business
because there's 44% less deals out there to be had. So I think that's kind of the driving force right now behind this.
There is no listings.
Yeah.
There is none. I used to every morning log in and kind of go through the new listing. It's called a hot sheet. There are some days where I'm like, nothing new here. So, if you're looking for something specific, there's just nothing to buy. So, as much as buyer demand is still down, the reason we're seeing these multiple offers and numbers creep back up is because when one pops on the market that maybe is good or, in a certain neighborhood that we haven't seen a listing in a while, people are all over it. And that's the reason we're going back up, I think. There's just no inventory.
Yeah, just to put it even more into perspective, the data showed that in March of last year, there was over 20,000 listings that came to market.
And that's in Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto and surrounding areas.
Okay.
And then in this year, in 2023, there was just over 11,000. So like a little bit more than half.
That's crazy.
That's crazy to hear.
I think sellers are they're at a point now where, they saw where their numbers were last year. This year, they don't want to sell at the bottom. I think nobody wants to sell at the bottom, and now they're hearing that the market's picking back up. And I think sellers are kind of sitting and waiting for the spring market. It's the only really thing I can.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that you make a good point there, because I think that people are waiting out for the top where that we saw, and that's 15%. Like, that could take years to get to. So it's the time value of money. Like, how long are you willing to wait? And by the time your house maybe goes up 15%, then the one you want to buy is probably up 15%.
And I think people are a little bit, what happened last year kind of skewed people's perceptions a little bit, in the sense that I had a call today and we had an offer on my listing, and we were 97% of asking price. It was pretty good.
Pretty good.
They kind of were considering, should we wait till next spring? Could we get And this is, talking about 20,000 more than asking price. And my answer is, a 15% jump, we're not going to see again.
No.
We're not.
Not anytime soon,
And
at
I
least.
think sellers think that the market can increase that quickly.
Yeah.
That's what just happened. But, the market increases at 6 to 8%, like we were saying, usually.
I think it'll increase slower.
Me too. It should take years to go back to where we were.
Because what did we see during COVID? We saw 48 or 50% increase in 2 years. Like,
insane.
Yeah, we deserve a pullback and then a slow market, like a market that just trades sideways. So I think that's something that we will see. And then the last number I wanted to touch upon was months of inventory, was 2.3 months. So basically what months of inventory means, if no more homes go to market, it would take 2.3 months for all the homes to sell, and Toronto would have no homes for sale. So that's, for people that don't know, that's a very low amount of inventory. So we're facing this inventory shortage. Just to kind of summarize this, we have an inventory shortage and we still have a demand for buyers out there, which is leading to not that many homes, which is leading to competition, which is leading to keeping the prices up.
In a seller's market, which is scary to hear this quickly after with such a buyer's market. At the end of last year, December, buyers had their pick.
Yeah, which kind of begs the question, like, does this give the Bank of Canada more ammo to increase rates more, or are they going to stay put? I guess we'll wait and see, but I think we do have a decision coming up soon again.
April 12th is the next Bank of Canada meeting, so we'll be all over that.
We'll be all over that for our next pod,
realtors
for sure.
Place our bets.
Yeah, so I guess anyways, to summarize that all up, the prices climbed again, but like you said, not by a ton, but we are seeing upward movement due to a lack of inventory.
Yeah, and my take is, in a lot of my conversations with buyers, is that they're in no rush. I think people are getting more used to the interest rates, maybe taking a peek at realtor.ca again, reaching out to their agent. Like, let's talk about how warm it was today. I hear from buyers I haven't heard from in a long time. And that's just what happens in the spring market. But again, back to that insatiable demand that we saw last year, it's not there. It's more of, I'm going to take my time and do things, in a slower moving direction, because I think these horror stories too of the people that did buy last year are kind of teaching, I guess, this buyer pool not to make, I guess, quick decisions that some people did make last year. Not everyone did. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that bought last year and are extremely, I bought in the peak last year. I'll tell you, I love my house. It's not necessarily down. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I love my house, and I bought it in the spring of 2022.
And you have a long-term plan too.
And it's a long-term plan.
Long-term plan.
So and you should have a long-term plan when you're buying real estate.
We'll continue to talk about that on this podcast till the end. So
Let's talk a little bit about our immigration numbers and how that's gonna affect the market leading up to the end of 2023 and 2024. Yeah,
okay, sounds good. So we touched on that a little bit last week too, right? Like, we're seeing over 1 million people come into the to the country, permanent residents and students as well too.
So because when we were chatting about the missing middle, right?
Yeah.
That was
an interesting article.
That is a huge conversation to be had. I mean, so what that essentially means is, there's a ton of houses, detached homes, single family homes that are way over budget in terms of what a millennial could buy. And then there's these towers that have these 400 square foot condos that could never fit a family.
Right.
So that middle link is kind of missing, and these millennials are struggling to get their first house.
Yeah, millennials and like we said, immigrants as well too.
And immigrants, they're hurting the most.
They're hurting the most. Yeah. So like you said, so it kind of all leads to this, like, baby boomers own these homes because most of Ontario and especially Toronto and British Columbia are zoned single family residential, right? They have these family homes.
50% in Toronto.
Yeah, I think it might even be more that are single family and semi-detached. They call it like the yellow belt. That's the term that someone coined. It was about 75% is zoned for single family and semi-detached. And why that's an issue is because it doesn't create density. So what happens is then builders now make basically concrete towers of condominiums that aren't suited for families, right? You cannot fit, you can't like literally have a family of four living in a 700 square foot
Right.
condominiums. So I think
until they decide to change this, which in BC, they're starting to.
Yeah, we heard rumors of it kind of come out.
Which I like, and that's awesome. And Ontario says little things like they're going to hop on that
Build
train.
more homes, yeah.
So what they're doing in BC, so these mass amounts of space that are completely zoned single family they're now saying come the end of the year, there's no more zoning provisions. You can build a triplex, fourplex, add a second dwelling in your home without going through those zoning provisions, which essentially is just allowing more densification, like you were saying. BC also said, which I liked, and I hope Ontario kind of follows their lead here, is that if you plan to add a second dwelling in your house, you can apply for a $40,000 grant. If you already have kind of a basement, a separate entrance, $40K will get you that kitchen room, like pretty much, right? And if you rent it for 2 years after having built it with their $40K grant, or I guess loan, it then becomes forgivable.
Right.
So I like that. So essentially the government will give you, a homeowner, money to finish your basement or add a garden suite, $40,000, and then rent it for 2 years, provide proof that you essentially added more houses on the market, in the rental market.
More units, yeah.
More units, and will forgive that debt.
Yeah, they're incentivizing you.
They're incentivizing
it. Yeah, which is what we've been talking about so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really like that. So they're kind of filtering the money back because, we see some provinces that don't have land transfer tax or, and I like that too, because they're filtering the money back into building more supply. And what was interesting to me is that, 2017 in the Liberals' plan was to build more housing. What BC is doing is an awesome, goal, and we're headed in the right direction in terms of what they're doing. But then Ontario, you look at land transfer tax, last year alone was $1.5 billion in land transfer tax.
With a B.
With a B. And then most of the developments, or I guess all of them, about 25% is taxed. So that's why we see these developers creating these tiny little condos, because they want to sell as many, because 25% is going to be taxed.
Yeah.
So that no one's talking about the land transfer and taxing these developments. Their plan is to, the first-time home buyers bill of rights and blind bidding.
Yeah.
Little things, the first-time home buyers savings plan.
None of it
these are not helping us.
It doesn't help. It really doesn't. And just high level, my understanding of this is that, because some people just don't really get what it means, but I think that, so the provincial government is basically saying to municipalities that we're abolishing your zoning rules.
Yeah.
So an example would be the Ontario government, which Doug Ford has talked about. He's talked about adding multiple dwellings to municipalities. And basically what that would mean would be that Doug Ford runs, say he runs Ontario, and then Oakville could not have single family zoning. So say your parents' home, you're allowed to build a duplex on it now.
Yeah.
Because they abolished the zoning. And then your parents go, well, my house is kind of decapitated. Maybe we should knock it down. We should all invest. And then we can split 2 semis. And then all of a sudden you create more density within Oakville, just as an example. But you do that everywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the missing middle actually has opportunity to get into the housing market.
Right.
So I think that's the idea of what this would do. It adds more units and allows more people to actually raise families. It would increase our birth rate. It would hopefully bring down prices. But the biggest issue is that you have people who own these single family homes, then not in my backyard people.
Yeah.
And they don't want to see that. They don't want to see semis and stuff in their backyard.
Right. And then the parties that are saying we're going to, allow for this change, it's the baby boomers and the seniors that have the most reliable vote that don't want this to happen. So, I mean, the first time ever you were saying that your parents actually kind of see, okay, there's a need for what I guess they don't want is to see semis all over their street, but they understand the need for it now. Another interesting thing is that despite this, if it comes to fruition, then great, because I see this actually, posing a real solution here, which there hasn't been something I've heard that's actually is a solution. These savings accounts and everything, anyways. a builder was saying, I could hire 1,000 people today and I could put them all to work tomorrow to get more houses built. The problem is I can't find them, the tradespeople. So now it's a catch-22 and a double-edged sword that, you know, everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're bringing all these immigrants in. Where are they going to go? But Canada is now kind of looking toward getting specialized immigrants that have skills in trades, plumbers, electricians, framers, that will help in actually the building of new homes. So where are they going to go? But we need them to work because we have no workers.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that going on too. So I think it's also a time thing, but these changes in the zoning provisions that BC is kind of leading the pack with, I think is going to be a good change, and hopefully we'll see that little missing
mill,
link.
Yeah. And to touch upon what you said about immigrations coming in, people with the right skills, and then you're almost, what we should do is in high school you have all these kids that just don't know really what they want to do, and they kind of get pushed into university, and they come out of university with a philosophy degree. Like, no offense to anyone with a philosophy degree. But
you know what? Listen to this. I want to interrupt you because my mom said this today. Over 50% of people that are going to the Toronto Food Bank has a university degree.
Wow.
Is that not wild?
That's wild.
Isn't that wild?
Well, you think about the debt some people accumulate, like $80,000 in student loans.
Things have changed from back then.
So if you actually had like a program out of high school where you could be a plumber and you could get paid 60 grand a year, and you're 19, you're probably going to jump all over that. You're going to have no student debt. You're going to start making money. Maybe start building up a side business, and you're contributing to an economy that needs to be built. So
because the tradition, I guess, in lack of a better word, is that you go to school, then you go to, I guess, a higher university, then you buy a house, you get married, all the great stuff. Now leaving university with student debt is a lot different than when our parents left university with student debt, because they could buy the house.
Yeah.
Now you have student debt, you're priced out of the market.
You're renting
in a tough market. It's a lot different. So back to, these interest rate increases. These people, our parents, the baby boomers, they're not feeling this.
No.
At all.
Not at all.
They own their homes. It was 28% of Canadians own their homes outright. And that's essentially the older generations for the most part.
And in BC, I think it was even higher. It was like 50%. When you just focus in on BC, half of BC owns their home outright, which is one of the most expensive real estate markets in all of Canada. So you can imagine the wealth that some of these people have accumulated.
Right, and that's the retirement plan. You come out of school, you buy your first house, you pay off your student loans, you work, you have family, and then part of your retirement plan isn't to just rely on CPP when inflation is this high. It's to own your home and then downsize, and that's where your money comes from.
Yeah.
Without that, or without a real pension, CPP isn't gonna, it's not gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Without that, what do you do after you retire?
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're renting and rent prices keep going up. So that's the concern that I have, is that, a lot of people, at 30 aren't in the market. And what do you do after you retire?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I always make fun of my dad. I always tell him that he got rich on accident.
He got rich on accident.
Yeah.
It's true.
So he bought his house, and shout out to my dad. He bought his house for $345K
in
Old Oakville, which is like one of the nicest neighborhoods ever. How he did not know it was going to appreciate it. And then he closed on it this year. He sold it, and he walked away with like $2.6 million. So he, like, in his wildest dreams, he could never imagine that. Now he is a baby boomer who does say it's very hard for you guys, and like he's willing to help my brother and myself to get into something, which you're seeing more of is kind of my point. Like, I know a lot of baby boomers and my friends' parents who say, I would rather help you with something than you move farther away, because if you do have kids, like, I want to see my grandkids. Like, so I don't think it's just millennials that want housing to be cheaper. I think it's also baby boomers too. Like, they want to see their kids get into something.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough when they're seeing, houses torn down and these fourplexes, and you can tell that for the last couple of years they've gotten their backs up and the vote's been against that. But I think now that it's treading toward just becoming more and more of an issue, I think that, I think we're going to see a change in the next
I think so. I think
election.
A lot of people are on,
I
think a lot of people are on board too. I think that everyone's talking about this. Like it's now such a huge topic in the House of Commons, for example.
The presidential debates have me like dying. Yeah. I laugh so hard at them because they fight each other.
Yeah.
But in that tone that they speak in, you almost have to pick a side because they're so opposite.
You're very opposite.
So I listen to them a lot because I actually find them funny, but I'm very much on the other side than what we currently are in because, it's all about climate change right now. It's all about kids that can afford, dental care, being able to go to the dentist, and all that sounds great, but there's bigger issues at hand. And raising our carbon tax, for instance, like that's a big liberal.
Yeah, you feel like it's just going to drive inflation even more. Like I have an electric car, so I don't know, but I see gas prices, and like last week they were 140 and now they're 157. So it's like is it really? I know it's supposed to be good for the environment,
and I'm sure support it.
Sure, the premise is right, but yeah, now in such a hard time that Canadians are in, you're going to increase, because when gas increases, pretty much everything increases because everything takes gas to transport 100%. Stuff. So
they were saying today, well, I guess this debate actually happened about a month ago, but I was listening to it today, that when the Liberals took office, the cost of a 2-bedroom home on average was something like $1,800 or something. Now
to rent it.
Now it's over $3,200 on average, and he's just going off about how it's doubled and how prices have doubled. And not to blame the Liberal. I'm not blaming them at all. It's just interesting to see, where our tax dollars are going, and I really think filtering that back to allowing for densification, not taxing developers 25%, so they're shrinking these units. Land transfer tax being $1.5 billion. That's in 1 year, in one province.
Yeah.
So.
Regardless of what side of the political party you sit on, there's no doubt the current government has failed affordable housing. Like you just can't, the numbers just don't lie, right?
Like a drastic thing needs to happen.
Drastic, yeah.
So. Well, I continue to follow that because
it's interesting.
It's funny is what it is.
And a lot of people,
situation isn't funny, but the way they speak is funny.
The way they speak is funny. But a lot of people are going to vote, I think, with housing in mind. Like a lot of millennials and Gen Zs, I think it's going to be like a huge swing.
Historically, and it's funny that we've kind of switched to politics here.
I know.
But baby boomers and seniors were the most reliable voter.
Yeah.
Now millennials are fired up to change.
People who never cared about politics that I knew are all of a sudden interested in politics all of a sudden.
So funny. Well, anyways, we'll continue to follow that. But I'm a big fan of getting things, completely on the other side because I feel for what's going on right now. It's tough.
I think density is the most important thing.
It is.
Yeah, like we can add in all these accounts and all these foreign bans, but we need to build more homes, and more density is something
right.
that
And
we need.
because the reason we're seeing prices go up is not because of what was happening last year. There's not as many buyers. It's just there's so few listings. So more listings on the market. I wonder what the market would look like right now.
Yeah, if we had 20,000 listings today,
how balanced would we be?
I don't think. Yeah,
I think we would.
People. I think we would continue of the downswing.
I don't know. There's so many people still. So, anyways, hypothetical. It's never happening.
We're never gonna know. So
might as well dream. But
yeah, let's switch gears here. So we both read this one and we're like, wow, this is kind of sad. So majority of Canadians who don't own a home have given up. So some 63% of Canadians who don't own a home have given up on ever owning one, according to the results of a IPSOS poll conducted exclusively for Global News. So that's really sad.
I heard that is because I don't know if some of that comes from the frustration, but owning a home in Ontario, that's very different than owning a home in Nova Scotia.
That's true. But I still think it's a really good way, regardless of what province you live in, to build wealth, right? And kind of.
Well, it said 76% of people that were interviewed said that owning a home is a good investment. Is that what they said?
Yeah, that's what they said.
76 said, yes, it is a good investment. And, well, it's always been that way. And that's, again, how our parents built wealth. That, you have your job and you have your assets.
Yeah.
That's how you build wealth. So 76%, that's a very high number. But of those 76 people that are not yet in the market have given up. That's sad.
7 in 10 say that.
Don't give up, people.
Yeah.
We'll get
7
there.
in 10 say that home ownership is now out of reach. That's really sad.
Well, I mean, it is, in the sense that go get pre-approved right now in Toronto by yourself.
By yourself, especially. It's not going to look pretty.
It's not.
Yeah. And then you're just going to end up renting.
And you're going to end up renting.
Yeah.
So the solution, I think, is to filter the tax back down and densify.
Yeah, you gotta add the
There's
density.
enough space. Canada has a lot of land.
Yeah, we do have a lot of land, and we have a lot of resources too.
We have a lot of resources.
Yeah, so it is possible, but yeah, it was sad to see that, right? Even with declining prices that we did see, but we're still seeing a raise in interest rates, so it didn't make it more affordable.
No.
So yeah, you have all these people talking about that I'll just never own a home. So it's definitely an issue that I think we'll see back to politics, that we'll see a lot of it, a lot more.
That's why I've taken an interest in politics, because it does really fall down on the policies and what, the provisions they're putting in place.
Yeah.
It really does, because they don't want to look at how much they're taxing back to the development. Like, they're not saying that.
No.
But the Conservatives were calling him out on it. And I was like, yes.
I know. They were calling him out every time. He deflects it too. Trudeau, he always deflects it.
It's so good. You guys have to watch it if you haven't watched it. It's so good.
It is
but
good.
no, I think that is a solution. Vote Conservative.
That's what you're going with.
That's my political advice.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Not advice, just opinions.
I wanted to touch on foreclosures and power of sales.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people straight up just ask me if I know of any distressed sellers. I've heard it multiple times, because these interest rates are killing some people. So especially people coming up for renewal that can't not renew at the higher rate because their value is down, right? And the rent that they're getting is less than half of what their new mortgage payment is.
Yeah.
So a distressed seller would be something like that situation. Anyways, a lot of people saying distressed sellers, power sale, foreclosures. I'm not seeing any.
Yeah.
0, maybe 2.
I think they're on the rise, but it's like, it's so minuscule. And even then, like house prices, like if you look to sale price to list price ratio, like you're still at 100% right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if a power of sale does come on the market, like their goal is still to get the most amount of money they can. So just because there's a power of sale, it's not like they're just handing it away. Like they're bringing it to market.
Or even bidding wars too. I've seen a power of sale. So the clear indications of a power of sale, they might not, say it in public descriptions, power of sale, but sold as is condition. No showings until an offer is accepted. Conditional, obviously. So I've seen, I think, 1 or 2. But I'm not seeing as many, and a lot of people predicted there was going to be a lot of them. But private lenders and second mortgages, those are the only people in that situation that would maybe be forced to go to power of sale, because a Canadian regulated bank has to renew you, whereas private lenders don't.
Yeah, that's true. Because private lending is more, for people that don't know, it's usually like a 1 to 2 year kind of fix. And like the goal is for them to obviously have a high yield on their return, but then for you to actually like improve your credit or, have more statements where you'll actually then go with a big bank. So if they're seeing that these homes are at a negative loan to value,
They can pull it.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
That is scary. And I think about 10% of the outstanding mortgages in Canada are private. So, hopefully these people can get with a big bank. But if they can't, I think that's where we're going to see the power of sales. If there is any right now, is going to be private lenders.
Or second mortgages,
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing many. I always tell people, I'm like, listen, what are you looking for? Because let me find it for you. I'm not going to tell you this is in distress sale. It's likely just going to sell for what this one, and I'll find you a better value.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Just because this is power of sale doesn't mean it's a good deal.
Doesn't mean you're getting a deal.
And doesn't mean you want that type of property. It's just, it sounds cool.
Yeah, you think you're going to get some smoking deal, but this is in 2008, so you're not, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be the only house for sale on the street, probably.
Yeah.
You're going to have a bunch of couples going through, or a bunch of people going through, so you're not going to get that, amazing price you think you're going to get.
No.
So, that's a good topic to touch on, but I guess kind of what are you seeing in the market? What are you noticing?
I'm seeing a lot. I have a good kind of day-to-day buyer-seller kind of ratio right now. I find that previous years I'm way more on one side. So I find that I'm kind of balanced right now with both ends.
Probably speaks to your experience coming now, like what are you, 6 or 7 years in the business now too?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're probably got those repeat, you know, the people you bought with 5 years ago who want to sell. So it's probably balancing out the business too.
Yeah, because when you're new in the business, you're more of a buyer's agent.
Yeah. You have to gain and earn the honor
You
of selling someone's
to be a
home.
listing agent.
You're like, seriously.
That's so funny. Yeah, so I'm seeing that, and it could be from that as well. But I noticed that my buyers are also very hesitant, and as they should be, right? So I'm, you know, walking slowly with them, and you know, if really good ones come up, I'll kind of shoot it their way and try to keep them educated, because before it was like, here's my showing, let's put in offers to all of them, and it was a little bit different. So I think that people are willing to also change what they're looking for to get in the market.
Right.
So they're coming to terms with what's going on. I still want to get in the market. I wanted to live in Oakville in a townhouse. Okay, now I'm willing to move to Hamilton in a detached house. So I'm willing to change what it was that I thought I wanted. And I think a lot of my conversations have been, listen, it's not your forever house. Okay? It's okay. Let's get you in the door.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that.
Bringing that perspective to people is so important.
Right. When I bought my first home, I had my keys and I cried in my living room. I cried.
You're like, what did I do?
I cried. I swear to God.
Even realtors have buyer's remorse.
Yeah, but it's obviously served as a good investment, because I did do the planning. It was for a reason, and that, you know, helped me continue. But I cried because it was like, why am I in Hamilton? I now love Hamilton, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Why am I in Hamilton?
You're the queen of Hamilton now.
No, I'm the queen.
Billboards everywhere.
Why am I in Hamilton? Why did I buy such an ugly house? Why did I put all my money in this? Because I need to make this pretty.
Yeah.
So it was tough, but that then allowed me to have something that I love today.
Awesome.
So that is, I think, the strategy. My little sister hates where she is. Okay, I'm being dramatic.
Hate's a strong word. Dislikes.
She wants to be in Oakville. You're 25, you can't be in Oakville.
Even though she's in the market is impressive.
Yes, exactly. So now and it's grown in value since she's bought it, maybe come down a little bit, but they've done updates to it. They've learned how to be a homeowner, you know, what to look for. She's just more educated. So I think education is a huge piece that I'm trying to focus on.
That's why we're doing this podcast.
It's because people don't know what's going on.
No, it's such like feels like a red curtain kind of scenario where unless you're behind it, you don't know what's happening. But it was interesting. I was talking to someone in the sauna today, which I know is weird, but I was. And he works in a lawyer's office, and I try to not make conversation in the sauna, but he was going for it. And he was telling me, he was like, so how's business? And I was like, you know what, volumes are down, it's a little bit slow, but you know, got a few things in the pipeline and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, we're really slow. And this is like a lawyer's office. So I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And he goes, well, like last year we were probably doing 30 deals a week, and last week we had 1 deal come in. I was like, wow. So, you know, there are people feeling this all across the industry.
Yeah.
Realtors.
So they said that, so it's funny because the amount of realtors that joined the business went like this, and now we're seeing
a decline already.
We're seeing a straight cliff.
The fees are eating away at their...
The fees are, you know, it's a good business, but unless you do it full time, we're going to lose the part-timers.
For sure, especially during COVID, right? You had so much more volume. You had the first 10 grand check you ever made. You went and bought a BMW, and now you're like, oh, I really regret this. No, it was not me. I drove a Ford Focus for a while. I learned to manage my money, but it's a good lesson, right? When things might get slow, so when things are really hot, pretend like they're not and save some money.
I wish I could have that outlook.
But I think that's kind of what we're seeing, just low volumes, but still homes are moving, good products moving, kind of the same as last week, not too much of a difference. But well, I guess we'll see after Easter, because I always find that after a holiday, you kind of have like people that want to list. Like I've got a listing in Burlington coming out next week. If you're looking for a 3-bedroom detached home in Burlington, reach out to me.
That was tacky.
That
was really tacky.
It was a plug. I think that we might see some more listings, and I think it's going to extend into the summer, but I don't know what you think about that.
I think that we're going to go like this and then calm down a little bit in the summer.
A little bit, like maybe August, because usually summer's really quiet, I find.
Usually summer's really quiet.
Yeah.
I went on a month trip last summer and didn't hear it from anybody, and I was worried about doing it. But I was like, I'm gonna work while I'm away. I can usually do that. I have a team in place, and I was like, I'm unemployed. We go through those. We go through those kind of ups and downs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm hoping that, you know, this balanced market will see more listings, because I do have buyers that are, you know, sitting with a pre-approval where they're like, okay, this rate is really high, but I can live with it right now. Mm-hmm. There's a saying.
Oh no.
Date the rate, marry the price.
Oh, I've heard this one before.
Date the rate, marry the price. I love it. I'm like, that is good.
Well, you're forced to date the rate because
we
don't have 30-year mortgages here, so.
Yeah, so we don't have 30-year mortgages. Well, 5-year term, you're dating the rate. However, by the end of that, you know, depending if you have a little bit more appetite for risk and go variable now that they're high.
Yeah.
I got offered a 3-year term today. I'm coming up to my renewal, and I'm like, 3-year fixed. And I'm like,
you should take it.
I said no. Anyways,
you love risk.
We'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
But it's true, because you're essentially buying a payment, get in the market.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to sell this house next year.
Yeah.
Look
You're not.
Macro, bigger, longer, retirement, kids, longer.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah. A lot of changes. This is one of those markets where week to week, everything we're saying, you know, something can just halt that and like there be a big pivot.
Oh, 100%.
So I think it's really important that, you know, realtors are watching things very closely.
Yeah. If you're not working with a realtor who's not on top of the market and just opens lockboxes, they're not your realtor.
No. Oh, I love it. Look at our little sayings today.
I know.
Very good. Was there another topic? We should save it for next week.
Yeah, I think we're good. We'll wrap it up here.
Okay. Very good. Well, if you like what we talk about, or
if you're on YouTube,
if
you're on YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel and comment down below anything you want us to
please
talk
ask
about
us
next.
questions.
Yeah, ask us questions for
It's
sure.
my favorite.
And if you're on Spotify or Apple Music, consider leaving us a review. And then follow us. We have short clips that we put on our Instagram and our TikTok, and we'll definitely plug those down below as well. Mm-hmm. And then follow our personal accounts as well.
Yeah. Over and out.
Awesome. Until next week.